so I'm the moderator now. I'm Agent Locascio, I'm the voice of Gambit in X-Men 97. And well, you can introduce yourself, I guess.
And howdy there, sugar.
My name is Larry Houston. I'm the original producer-director of the original series, and I'm also consultant producer on X-Men 97.
So I'm assuming someone was supposed to have questions to ask us, but we were just sitting there watching the trailers like y'all, so we don't have any plans. Let's just... Anyone got any questions for us?
Those are the best panels.
This might get real weird, shit. Alright, let's just do it this way. Just make sure to speak loud. Are we okay with this?
Yeah,
let's call it, you waved your hand, so you got a question? Come on up, Monomi.
Did you? Now,
I'll just repeat the question back. Okay.
I was gonna say, with the voice, when you get in the voice acting role for Gambit, what were you expecting for anyone else, or were you just going for a Gambit? Is my main.
So they asked, I guess what you asked was I auditioning for anyone else when I auditioned for X-Men? No. I literally just wanted Gambit. As much as I've been a lifelong fan of Gambit, and I was just like, all I want is Gambit. If I can't be Gambit, I really don't want to be anyone else. As much as I want to be part of X-Men, I was like, Gambit's my guy. You definitely didn't audition for anyone else, did you?
No, I definitely did not.
Yeah.
But
Xavier?
no. But you know, I'm so glad that you are playing Gambit because we have great chemistry.
We do.
We have a lot of fun. We tease each other mercilessly.
It's true.
And whenever Magneto is on the scene, it makes him very jealous.
It makes me trade jealous.
And he's so tall.
He is so tall.
Magneto is very tall.
I've worked with Matthew for years, so him and I have been friends for a really long time, so when we first got the text, sorry Larry, I'm not trying to leave you out of this. Who did you audition for?
I'm not sure, maybe the Blob.
Well, you're killing it. But real quick story, I've known Matthew for a really long time, and so when we first got the show, I had heard he was on the show, and we had worked on so many things together, and it became a joke that you can't hire one of us without the other. And so I just sent him an emoji of a magnet with an O at the end. He was like, you son of a bitch. Are you working on that show as well? And I was like, yeah, but I sent him some playing cards, and I don't think he got it, because he doesn't know X-Men, but yeah. But he does now. He has no choice, but it's funny. He's stuck with me in so many. Him and I have worn spandex together many times. God of War, Star Wars. So it's fun to be able to tease each other. And the first thing he said about you, he's like, "We're in a love triangle with a member of Canadian Parliament, aren't we?" Lenore, you were part of Canadian Parliament.
Yes, I was a member of Canadian Parliament.
Yeah.
I was in politics for 12 years. I left my acting career to go and do public service. And my own mother and my sister told me I was crazy, that I would never get elected. But guess what? I won in a Zann slide.
Wow. I haven't heard you say that before.
Yeah, that's what the media dubbed it.
That's amazing.
And then I won 4 elections in a row, so I did 4 terms. Yeah. And Rogue, cares about people, and she cares about underserved people and people who are maybe being oppressed by others. I think that's what makes the X-Men so special, is that we really want to make the world a better place for everybody, even though we are hated and feared ourselves as X-Men. But so, that idea of trying to make life better for people and bring people together is something that's meant a lot to me throughout my whole life. So when I had that opportunity, I just said, I'm going to give it a shot. And one of my private members' bills, they call them, that I introduced just became law in Canada this last summer, called An Act to Address Environmental Racism, which environmental racism, for anyone who doesn't know, is the disproportionate number of toxic dumps, waste sites, landfills, and corporate polluters that are placed on or beside racialized communities. So communities of color, usually black communities or indigenous communities. And that means that the people living in that community have different health outcomes, you know, more cancers, more respiratory problems, more all kinds of different issues. And so it became law in Canada last summer, and I was there to witness it. So.
One of the things that happened when we were trying to cast for the original X-Men series, we had lots of Canadian actresses coming in, auditioning for Rogue, and it's a group of 3 of us, and we just never found the Rogue. And I think you have the story of your agent trying to get her to come to an audition. And she was stubborn. She didn't want to go to an audition. We didn't know this at the time until, you know, your agent told you they haven't the callback. They haven't found their Rogue. Go down and do Rogue. And you know, she came in and she did the lines. I mean, you remember the lines. And we were like, there's this long pause, and we said, "Have her say something again." Say another line. She said it, and then I remember the group of us said, "Don't let her leave the room." Yeah.
Lock the door. Turn on the gas. Yeah.
Don't let her leave the building.
Yeah, and that's how we found Rogue. I mean, basically, I don't think you were doing jingles and stuff. You were doing more acting on stage and stuff and TV.
I was doing film and TV and theater, and I just finished a long run of a play for a year in Chicago and then a year in New York off Broadway, and I had just come back to Toronto, and I was asked to go and do this audition, but I'd only ever done one animated project before, so I wasn't really into animation at the time, but my agent said, "Lenore, they still haven't found the right actress for this part because it's you. You know, get your ass in gear and get down there because it's you." And then I took one look at this drawing that Larry had done, and somebody brought it to me to sign yesterday. It's that one where she's standing there with her hand on her hip and her head up and, you know, her hair in the air, and I went, I think I can do that. That sassy quality. Yeah.
So before we ask someone else, Larry, can you explain what you do? Because I'm still figuring it out. I know you as a sweet, shy, beautiful, talented human being, but for those of us who don't know, or people that explain to us what you do.
On the original series, I basically was the showrunner, basically having to do everything at no extra pay to get the stuff done. Basically hiring all the artists, background painters, colorists, designers, storyboard, and timing the scripts and trying to get everything ready for it to go overseas to be animated. And I had very little time. The deadlines, they didn't give me a lot of time, because at the time, a lot of executives didn't believe in the show. So they made the budget instead of being here, it was like right here. So I had to run like 100 miles an hour to make sure the show worked. But it was a show that I believed in. I've been reading comic book nerd since I was in elementary school, so I had X-Men all over my brain and everything. So I knew exactly how to make it work, but basically it's like doing all the pre-production, everything that you see, the character designs, the artwork, I have to approve it, and sometimes I have to revise it. Every week I would be getting episode 1 and episode 5. I'd have to edit like 300 pages a week to make sure the show worked. In addition to when that was going out, at some point the animation's coming back in, I have to keep this train running and this train running at the same time in your head. It was really crazy. But like Eric and Julia Lewa were the showrunners of all the writers, and I was the showrunner of everything else. I had to do everything.
Well, you killed it.
And he's also an amazing artist himself. Like as I said, he drew Rogue.
Yeah.
So also Larry put in a lot of characters who were unnamed characters, but that you would recognize. You want to tell them that story?
Yeah. In the first season of X-Men, I like to do what I call back then was Easter eggs or cameos and stuff and drop them into the show. And as a kid, I remember, this shows my age, I was reading an X-Men comic when I was a kid, and in one panel you saw Thor go through. And Spidey's saying, hey, watch where you're throwing that thing, right? And at the bottom, Stan Lee would have this little bracket saying, if you want to see where Thor's going, buy this issue, Tales of Suspense, whatever it was. So he was cross-promoting, but as a kid, it was like, oh my God, they're all in the same city. So fast forward to X-Men, I tried to do that with X-Men, dropping in cameos and stuff of other parts of the Marvel Universe. First one was Spider-Man, they told me no, and they never gave me a reason why. So the next time I saw an opportunity was, I think it was Slave Island. And the writers really didn't know, believe it or not, the writers didn't know the X-Men. I knew too much, they didn't know anything. So it was like a nice balance between the two.
That made someone bark. Did you hear that? The writers didn't know that. I don't know whose laugh that was. I won't point you out, but
you know, they wrote Mutant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went home, physically brought my collection to work, Xeroxed it. So, okay, make this Mystique, make this Blob, make this Sunfire. I used all of the characters from the books, but I kept the original writers' names, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it went into the system, I didn't hear anything. I went, okay, now I got it figured out. So all of the cameos and Easter eggs that you guys saw never had the real names of the characters. And that's how I got all of that through for you guys to enjoy.
thank you. Since no one's here to organize, let's just keep calling people out. Does anybody have a question? You guys okay with
There's
that?
somebody down there with the yellow shirt.
The yellow.
Long arm.
Hello.
Hello.
Were you expecting crop top Gambit to explode?
No, not at all. So it's funny, like, I think in the original script it had, I don't know if you guys remember, I think he was dressed like a chef, like he was in the original story. I may be wrong. But when I went in to do the dialogue to replace, because you record, then they animate it, then you go back and you redub over your own stuff, I was like, oh my God, he's got a crop top. And I was like, you guys get it. I was like, I knew they had gotten it, but like Gambit is sort of, you know, he sort of rides the line between feminine and masculine and just sort of being comfortable in himself. I was like, oh hell yeah. But no, I didn't expect it to become a thing. I never thought in a million years I'd go in a Hot Topic and buy a shirt of a character. Like, I'm cosplaying as my own character essentially every time I go to a convention. I refuse to crop it any more than this. But, it's wild. I mean, did you guys see it beforehand or read it in the script? I did not expect that to be, I see so many crop top, wherever I go now. I see people just out in the wild, just wearing that shirt, and I'm like, nice.
Yeah, I didn't see it until we had the premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. They brought us all, they invited us to the premiere on March the 20th, I believe it was. Or maybe no, it was March the 13th. It was a week before.
You can say any date, I would.
It was in March.
Yes, last year.
And we none of us had really, well, we met once
very briefly.
But most of us had never met other than the original cast. So we all got together, and there were like 1,500 fans of the show, all dressed in cosplay of our characters. And here we were on this red carpet in Hollywood, and for those of us who were in the original show, and who created the original show, this is like 30 years after we created it.
Yes.
And we'd been basically creating it in a vacuum where we didn't know how popular the show was. We didn't know it had made a major effect on so many children all around the world who are now adults, who still love the show and were so pumped and excited about X-Men 97. So when we got there and we sat down, they played us the first 3 episodes on the big screen. And when the music started, that theme song, the screams that went up from the audience were And then as each character got introduced, the screams and the cheers for the characters, it was just like, we were like, holy, are they here for us? You know? Are we in the right place? It was amazing. It just blew us all away.
It's so, I mean, for me who grew up with it, was now part of it, which is, my dad is like, do you even realize you've manifested the most specific dream in the world? And I'm like, I had no idea. I mean, like, but just sitting with you guys and being like, oh my God, that's my character is so, and it's my favorite character that I love. I still don't, I'm waiting for someone to wake me up still. This is very strange. Was there anyone else that has questions? I mean, I saw a lot of hands.
Oh, wow.
Larry, you get to choose one, because we both chose someone.
How about the, yes?
So, I know X-Men has always been so heavily about the times and about like the culture and the social issues
So one of us has to rephrase that. So
the time X-Men has always expressed what's going on during the time. So like back in the day, it was talking about the civil rights movement and social justice issues. And the question is, was it hard to try and make it like that again today? One thing I gotta say is none of us wrote this, right? This was written by Bo DeMeo mainly and other writers, and they knew the show inside and out. They knew the characters inside and out. Bo was a huge fan. All of them are. And to be honest, I'll say this: it was interesting for me to watch each episode as it came out. And see just how on the money it really was about what's going on in the world. Like, it was written, and then we recorded it, and then things would happen out there in the world that we had just recorded. It wasn't the other way around. So, sadly, injustice and bigotry and all of these terrible wars continue happening, and mankind just doesn't seem to learn the lessons.
Yeah.
Want to add to that?
What I want to say is that back when we did the original series, we tried to write topical stories, but we tried to write it in a way that it was like more subtext than in your face. So it's like when you saw the episodes, you'd see robots and laser beams and explosions, but the adult subtext was there once you rewatched it as you got older, and all the items that we were touching upon. You gotta remember, because my audience when I did it was like, my audience was between 7 and 12, so I had to get those ratings. So as long as I had those ratings, it stayed on the air. So we were really good at not pushing stuff into your face, but it was there. And so you guys kept it #1 for the whole season, first season. Well, actually all 5 seasons, I should say that. And so that's what we were trying to do. And we deliberately, when we were writing the original series, we didn't want to write down the kids. We wanted to write up the kids so that it made it more of an interesting show, and also it kept the writers interested in what they were doing and keeping the shows topical and fun. And that's what Eric and Julia Leewald and their team did. Yeah.
Just to speak to this more is like I rewatched the show. I mean, I've rewatched the show many times, and when it came out on Disney Plus, I rewatched it again. This is long before, or a few years before the auditions popped up. But yeah, it's tough to watch and be like, things changed. It's really rough to just be like, humans are humans, and we're still just like a bunch of monkeys fighting over the same banana. And
Magneto was right.
Magneto. We hate to admit it, especially me, but he is right. Yeah. Do I get to choose now? I get to choose first? All right. I'll try to find someone that I wouldn't normally see. Okay, there's a wee Wolverine back there with my glasses. Without my glasses, I can't see you that well. Speak loudly.
I was wondering, why did Wolverine's
Why does Bones have to be covered with adamantium?
Yes.
To protect him from 4G. What's the G?
What?
You want to answer that one, Larry?
Yeah.
He took too much colloidal silver.
No, the reason he had the adamantium on his bone is that his natural adaptation was the bone, but scientists took him and forcefully, against his will,
Oliver Trask.
put the adamantium into his body to make him into a weapon. So it wasn't something he wanted, it was something someone did to him to make him into a weapon with the adamantium.
Oh, okay.
Say it one more time. Can you repeat that one more time?
Because humans are evil. And they wanted to make him more dangerous.
Bad guys do bad things.
Oh, we didn't do any of that.
No.
No, that was someone way before our time.
That's in the comic books. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Is this Victor?
Yeah, hi.
Victor, where the hell were you?
You are.
So this panel was taken off of my schedule.
Oh!
I was literally on the north side, so I I teleported over here.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, Nightcrawler. Victor, would you like to come up here? We've just been calling up people. No worries, you're good. We were just watching movie trailers with everyone going, we should probably do something. We met before, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, okay. You seem very familiar.
I thoroughly apologize, because if I had known that this was the panel that they had taken off, I would have boycotted the entire show. Who does not have an X-Men panel then not show up for it? That is a no.
It's all good.
Yeah.
We were just asking people questions, just, hey, why not? That's fine. We
No,
want to
no.
hear from you anyway.
No, you guys, listen,
Okay.
I was sitting over here listening in, and it was great. That was a very fascinating question. I was going to jump in. Actually, okay, because I'm a nerd, let me just... Yeah. So Wolverine is a part of the Weapon Plus program, which is actually part of the Sentinel program that Captain America was a part of. Captain America was Weapon 1. And so, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So Victor, did you have a plan for us?
So actually, when I first had it assigned to me, yes, and so when it was taken off, I was like, wah, wah, wah.
We can just keep doing this. This is
can
fun.
you
Just point
remember
at
any
people.
of your
Absolutely,
plans?
absolutely. So one of the things I think is super important about this particular era of X-Men 97 is that it bridges the gap between those that watched the show originally in the 90s and those that are watching it right now. And you kind of talked about this a little bit as I heard that the generational thing of things haven't changed enough is a huge one. My question to you would be kind of an addendum to that is it that it hasn't changed enough, or are the things that we need to fight socially are now just getting different spotlights? Because originally when the X-Men first came out, it was more about racial identities. But now we know that there are a lot of other things that one can fight, justices about. And is that one of the things that makes the X-Men such an endearing property, and why you guys as a cartoon series speaks to a younger audience regularly? Because I think those of us that grew up with the 90s cartoon, I think we're better people because of the X-Men series. And so 97 is setting the stage to make even better people watching it now. How do y'all feel about that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes to that.
Yes, sugar.
I feel like as a kid, so, as someone who was consuming this as a child, I was understanding and learning through that. I mean, I recognized racism, and I recognized bullying and bigotry through the lens of X-Men. So I was understanding that, like, when I saw it in real life, I was like, oh shit, that's like X-Men. And it was genuinely my understanding of it first, because, there'd always be a very special episode of Blossom where someone deals with racism or something, and you're like, all right, that doesn't really speak to me. But X-Men, I was able to go, oh, it's like mutants. So I got to, I absorb everything through metaphor and superheroes and books. So for me, it worked. And hopefully now I'm not racist. But it helped me learn that it's like, oh, okay, that kid in my school who other people think are strange or whatever it is, it's like, they're like me, or I was my own version of a mutant. I was the only one that liked Star Wars in my high school, which sounds insane now. But it was like, you talk about Star Wars, you get shoved in a locker, or X-Men, or any of that stuff. Or Star Trek. Well, I didn't watch Star Trek growing up, but yes, anything that was other and wasn't just football and farming in my school was considered other or weird. So yeah, that's why I related to X-Men. But yeah, I don't even know what the question was, but yeah.
No.
Lenore, you got this. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's everything you're saying is correct. I mean, for me, the stories that we were able to portray were some excellent stories from the writers that gave us, and they were commentaries on what was happening in the 90s and stuff, and some of it was actually, telling what was happening in the future, like, we have one story where the bad guys had created this disease, and then he found a way to blame it on this small racial group over here, like, which happened when
Those are really
happened.
Well, it's like when I was a kid, I was reading stuff like 1984 and even Animal Farm and stuff. And, I remember, because I loved science fiction, my dad got me into that. But so 1984, I think was the one where they have, every week they have this, it's like International Hate Week. And they would change, every week it would change who you hated that week. And they would basically demonize that particular country or group or whatever. And it just kept changing. But it was the same hate. And I noticed that that's happening now.
Yeah, we do that all the time. It's called Twitter. Right? What do y'all want to hate on this or X? I'm not calling it X.
Yeah, really.
That's stupid. We've got the only X brand.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. How dare you?
And it's interesting because, I mean, people in power have already hit on this idea. It happened a long time ago. Is you pick a group of people, you make them the enemy. Oftentimes you throw religion into the mix, and you can get people to give you their rights. Say, take away my rights. Yes, deal with this enemy. And that just keeps regurgitating. And then the friends of humanity. I mean, you know, and they just keep. They just keep appearing, but in different guises. And again, they hate on different types of people. So that's why I think it's so important that X-Men is actually back.
Yes.
And that we are a voice that says, hey, those people are crazy. We're the same ones.
Call themselves Friends of Humanity because it was the perfect irony for things. X-Men has always been like a global franchise. How has the world responded to X-Men 97? How, you know, obviously we have a certain nostalgia for it here in the States or in North America, but what about the rest of the world? How have you guys seen that people have responded to 97?
It's been amazing. I mean, there's millions of fans around the world. I went to a Comic-Con in New Zealand and Australia recently, and they just love the show. I think it's amazing that it is hitting so many people so many ways right around the world. People are relating to it. And the kids that are now adults are turning their children onto the show, and now we're getting 2 and 3 generations of people. Sometimes the grandparents, the parents, and the kids. We have like 6-year-old fans.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm like, how are you watching this? Yeah. There's a girl who came up to us today who like was still growing in like her teeth, and she's like, and I was just explaining, I was like, how do you know this about Wolverine and like Nightcrawler? And it was awesome.
I know, and there's one little girl, she's 6, and she came up to me and she was dressed like Rogue, and she said, Rogue's my favorite character, sorry. And she goes, and I've watched X-Men 97 6 times already. Did you start in the womb?
Yeah.
And then I said, but isn't it kind of scary? And she goes, no, it's exciting. I said, okay. And then I said to her dad, I said, what about episode 5? Oh, I saw episode 5 6 times. And I said to her dad, really? Did you talk to her? Oh, yes, we talked about death and how it's part of life. And then, she goes, I said, and did you find it such an, oh, yes, I cried every time. And she said, and I feel really sorry for Rogue because she lost both of her boyfriends.
That's amazing.
From the mouths of babes.
That's incredible. Wow. Just imagine her reenacting with her dolls, and now you're gonna die. Wow.
She's got a can upside down. Remember.
Yeah.
Larry, what are your thoughts to how the world has responded to 97?
My thoughts came from talking with some of the executives over at Disney Plus, and all of the input and the comments they received is that it is such a global phenomenon that they're very proud of what they've been able to accomplish, and the world has accepted the new version, 97, with very open arms. And that's why, right now I'm working on season 2 and I'm working on season 3.
So hyped. Since you did talk about episode 5, and I think that was a moment for all of us to kind of grow up a bit. Again, even though X-Men has always touched on very sensitive matters, life and death in such a visceral way. With all due respect to Morph, right? He died early on in the initial series, but he wasn't necessarily a character that we had fallen in love with so in-depthly as Gambit. And when that happened, it hit us all, right? Collectively, I think we're all kind of in that space.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
How many of you learned how to deal with grief and trauma because of that episode? And for you guys, what is it like to know that that is something that you've now added to your repertoire of being someone's guide through one of their most difficult time periods?
Well, yeah, we watched it happen in real time on the internet when the internet kind of exploded.
Yeah, I was told to stay away from not only social media, but there's these screenings that we do at Scum and Villainy, and they were like, come in a week 5, and I went, nope. I gotta be as far away from other humans as I can be, so yeah.
And so we weren't quite sure how people would react, but the internet basically exploded. People were, yeah, they said, you killed us. Like, it was just, so it hit people right in the heart and in the guts. And I came on and I did some on-camera video stuff after that saying, listen, the thing about this particular episode is I had lost my lovely little 17-year-old niece to cancer shortly before I recorded that. And I was deeply, deeply grieving. And when I got that script, I went, oh boy. And I went, I don't have to do any emotional homework for this. I know how this feels. So I decided to channel all of my grief into the performance. And I thought, if I can put my grief authentically into my performance, people will hear that authenticity and it will reverberate inside of them. And if anyone has lost somebody during the pandemic or anything, and even just witnessing all the terrible shootings and mass shootings and wars and people dying all around the world, bodies piling up, I think that a lot of us were deeply grieving already. And I felt like this might be a great opportunity for them to feel their grief and release it in tears and hopefully have a cathartic experience, which is actually what acting is supposed to be all about, when it's really on the money and you're able to like touch people so that they have a cathartic experience and they, you know, are taken out of their bodies almost and then come back again changed. That's what I was hoping that performance would do. And I heard from people that in fact it did.
It did.
So I'm grateful that it
What I was going to relate to was more of like when we killed Morph in the very first episode.
Morph, no.
Yeah.
It's my version of a cow. This one's for you, Morph. My buddy and I used to quote that in college all the time. Morph, no. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Just so you guys know, he was supposed to remain dead. Right? He was not supposed to come back. And then when we got the pickup from the network for a second season, they told us they had done a study group with a whole bunch of kids. Like, who was your favorite character out of all these characters you've seen for 13 episodes? Guess which one they picked? They picked Morph. Wow. So the network said, okay, you got the season 2, but you got to bring Morph back.
That's awesome.
But
Ron Rubin was very happy.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I relate that because when I found out what they were going to do and I talked to Bo about it, I said, Bo, if you're going to do this, because we talked about it before it even got past the script level, you need to have a backdoor. You need to have some way to keep the storyline going in case of the upper powers above you have comments. And so, like when we brought Morph back, we had to create a new ending and we brought in Sinister, so he could Morph could come back with PTSD. So I talked to Bo about when you do, if you're going to kill Gambit, then have plan ahead.
Oh, okay. This is the first time hearing you say this. I've been picketing outside Disney for months now.
No, I mean, if you know the comics, then you know what Apocalypse picked up in the show.
Yep. Yes.
So that's all I can say. All right.
I see that laser sight. I like the sound of that. So to speak to the opposite of that, remember it. I mean, so the funny thing is, it's like, congratulations, you're on X-Men, and I was like, oh my god. And then I get a call that's like, hey, the producers would like to speak to you. And I was like, well, shit, I'm fired. And so it was Bo and I think Jake and I can't remember who else, but they were on Zoom because we were still sort of dealing with pandemic stuff. And they were like, hey, so AJ, like, welcome to the show. Don't worry, you're still on. And I was like, oh, thank God. They're like, but. And so they sent over the script, and I was like, no. I was like, welcome to your dream job. You get 5 episodes. So which is great. That's fine. But when I read it, I was like, oh, this is a worthy. And you know, if it is to be our end, then we will make such an end. To quote King Clayton. It was incredible. So I was like, all right. But then I had to, in silence and in solitude, mourn on my own for 2 years, and I kept saying because I told some of my friends, I wrote my MBA. I was going through a tough time, like, why are you so sad? And I was like, so on this project, my character.
You can't say that Disney's got shooters.
No, I didn't tell me it was Disney. Yeah.
Everybody to take wrong signals in the audience just now.
There's a guy dressed like Goofy, like, hold still. But I was really sad, and I was like, I'm going through mourning, but it's with a project. So it's weird because I've lost family members and stuff, but mourning a character is very strange. So I had to sort of deal with that. It was like that Michael Bluth or George Bluth, where he's just got his head down to the Charlie Brown theme. So it's been, but the reception to it when it finally came out was so strange and so wonderful, and I was so afraid of people being mad. And it wasn't that. And people would be like, you made me cry, but that was awesome. That's a hell of a scene.
Absolutely.
It was like, in that scene, I've rewatched it many, many times, and I'm like, God, every beat of it is perfect.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, man, that sucks, but man, that's cool.
Yeah. How many of y'all watched it like right away, like back to back? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My tribe, my peoples. That's what I'm talking about. Do we want to go back to asking?
Sure, do we have time? I have no idea what time it is, so.
It is.
I'll stay here all day.
How long was this panel supposed to go to?
45
minutes. Okay, we got one question.
Well, we started late.
Did we start
a little late?
I mean,
We started about 2 minutes late.
if there's a crew member that comes in to kick us out, then we'll stop. But how about
She's
that?
reaching her hand so hard.
Please.
Your arm's gonna detach. That'd be terrifying.
So my question is,
Sorry,
I just
Lenore. You snorted. I didn't hear that. All of you erased your memory. Sorry, go ahead.
my question is, do you find yourself just day-to-day quoting a Gambit line, and if so, what is it?
It's also specifically to me. I say share a lot. So just the other day I was hanging out with one of my friends who was like, after you shit. And it's just a thing that's become part of my repertoire for whatever reason. I mean, I guess because I say it so much on the show and I say it at conventions, it's just become a thing. And I say to you all, we say to each other. So it's become part of my daily vernacular, I guess. So yeah, that one's stuck in there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So much of his weird, I love gumbo, I love jambalaya beignets. Like it's been something since I was a kid I was obsessed with. And so there's a lot of things that have just been kind of raised to the forefront now. But as far as words go, shit is the one that I use all the time. I don't call people mon ami because I think they would think I was weird.
Well, we are your friends. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, mes amis, yeah. Do we have time for another? Are you guys itching to leave? No. Okay, by the way, before we do, we should say this because no one's been able to find us, but if you go to the main floor, we're at booth 220 or 2025, like the year we're in. It's under the big sign that says comics. We're in the someone was telling people that our plane didn't make it. Wow. And that I was like, Jesus! We're on an island with Gilligan and Skipper and
How many blackbirds is that now? It's like 4 now?
Yeah.
Blackbird makes me so mad.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good. But so you can find us over on the main floor, booth 2025, if you want to talk to us personally. But yeah, did we have? Sorry, I didn't mean to be scary.
No, I think we can get one.
Victor, you call out someone since you. Or sorry, Larry, I just stepped on you.
Can we?
There's a shaky hand over there.
Yeah, the shaky.
A shaky hand.
If anything, this is kind of relating to episode 5, to be honest.
Oh my God.
I
Let me
know we
rest.
don't just talk about it, but I do wanted to ask, VAs themselves, the recording process for episode 5. How was it emotionally, especially, doing the voice acting and everything?
It was all AI. We just got paid. No. Well, it was weird because for
We
me,
didn't do it together.
we did not do it together.
Oh, we did it separately.
So I went in alone the first time, and the story I've told this a few times, but it was weird because we were sort of trying to figure out the last line. The name is Gambit. Remember it. Was like, the name is Gambit. I want to be remembered. The first time they're like, can you try screaming it? And I was like, screaming it? And so they did. The name is Gambit. And I was like, I hate this. And they're like, yeah, we don't like that at all. So we went through a bunch of different iterations, and then we kind of landed on where it was at the time. And I remember thinking, I really didn't like that, I really didn't like that, like over and over again for months. And then finally when we got the animation back, they called me in and they were like, can you redo this? And I was like, please. And so what you hear in the final show was the re-recorded stuff. And also because of the physicality of what was going on, getting to see, I got to record that part where he's got the, spoilers, the thing in him. And they were like, more guttural, more in pain. And I was just like, ugh. So I got to do that over and over and over again. And it was like, it hurt to watch. But like, once it all finally landed and it was all together, I was like, holy crap, that's awesome and sad. And there's something that I did, the thing that made me cry the most is I was thinking about it after I watched, I was driving. And it was like, oh, the idea that Gambit just wants to be remembered was like what hit me. The idea of like being lost and wanting to be remembered and sacrificing himself for Rogue, because he loves Rogue and loves the X-Men. That line, how it's like, the name is Gambit, remember, like he says it in a very throwaway, silly way in the release show, but this was like, oh shit, this is what he wants out of life is just to be remembered as a hero. Like really, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, and like that's what made me start crying in my car. It's like, isn't that what we all want?
Not to be this guy, but did you think that inspired the scene from Wolverine and Deadpool when he came back, when they were at the final fight and it was like, I'm about to make a name for myself?
I don't know what they were thinking about. I think they were just improvising and having the best time of their lives.
It's also possible. I'm so sorry, the next panelists are here. So
they're here. Hello. I hope you guys have a host. I didn't believe you at all. I didn't know
name's Andrew for kidding.